You guys remember Mr. Shredded Cheese? Mr. Shredded Cheese was the first rat I made for this YouTube series. He's made out of Red Heart Scrubby yarn. Today, I'm going back to my roots. This time, the scrubby yarn is called Stitch Soak Scrub. There are some key differences between this yarn and the yarn that I used to make Mr. Shredded Cheese. The yarn I made Mr. Shredded Cheese with is made out of polyester, and it's this kind of like thin plastic with like thinner pieces of plastic poking out, and they're like intertwined. It's all like wrapped around each other, kind of like a rope. But this is different. This looks like it's kind of like chained or like woven together in very loose, thin strands. Very loose, thin strands of plastic. This material actually kind of reminds me of when I made a rat out of fishing line. If you look really closely at the strands of this, you can see that it's kind of a similar look, kind of a similar material to fishing line, but it's obviously a lot thinner and softer and easier to work with, at least as far as I can tell by looking at it. I found this yarn the other day when I was at Michael's, the same day that I found the yarn that I made this rat out of. And as soon as I saw this yarn, I was like, I can make Mr. Shredded Cheese Part 2 with this. I guess it goes without saying that I'm pretty confident that this yarn will work and that I will be able to rat this. And I think I'm actually going to end up giving this yarn a pretty high rating. Choosing the color for this was hard because I kind of wanted to go with yellow again, just like Mr. Shredded Cheese. But I decided I didn't want to be super repetitive that way. So I went with this nice looking bluish gray color. And I didn't want to make the feet and the tail and the ears out of like my regular pink yarn. So I tried to see if there was a color that I could use that was this to make the tail and the feet out of. And the only pink they had was like a very bright hot pink. So I went with what I think is the next best color. It's this light muted purple color, and at first this doesn't seem like it would be a good color to make the tail and the feet out of, but when you compare it to the cool gray that I bought, it'll kind of make like a really cool toned rat. And I think this color combo will actually end up looking really nice, so I'm excited to see how the finished result looks with this color combo. Anyways, as you guys can probably tell, I'm really excited to get started with this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right in. If you haven't watched any of my videos before, I usually start making the rat by making the snout first and then working my way towards the end of the body, and then the tail and the feet and the facial features are things that I have to make and sew on separately. So right now I'm about to get started with the head and the body of the rat. First impressions, this is a very thin yarn. It says it is a weight 4, and I think it will end up being that way, but it feels very thin in my hand. And another thing is that it is very stretchy. Struggling to get the camera to focus, but it's a very stretchy yarn. Since it's not like super stretchy, like it's not like a rubber band kind of stretchy, I think this will actually make it easier on my hands. I've dealt with so many different materials in the past that have been very hard on my hands. I have to make a slip knot and then chain 2. Interesting. And then I have to single crochet 6 into the first chain. Okay. Yeah, I can kind of see what's going on. So for the first round is done, and this is what it looks like. I mean, that's not bad. I can personally tell what's going on here, so I'm not losing track of what I'm doing yet. Alright. Here's round 2 completed. So this is the very beginning of the snout. So on Mr. Shredded Cheese, that's about right here I've finished so far. What I'm noticing so far with this is that I think, you know, for me, it's pretty easy to see my stitches and like read what's going on here. But I think For a beginner, like if a beginner was doing this challenge and crocheting amigurumi with this yarn, I think they would struggle a lot more to even see like their rows and to like see what's going on. But I'm not completely sure. But personally, I can see my stitches just fine. I think it's easier to see my stitches with this than it was when I made Mr. Shredded Cheese here. Because if you look at him, I mean, you can kind of see the stitches, but they're very much a mess because of all these sticking up bits. But this doesn't have anything like sticking out of it. It's more of a it's not smooth, but it's more of like a smoother surface than Mr. Shredded Cheese. So overall, this has been pretty pleasant to work with so far, for this channel at least. You know, it's being easier than this rat. Another thing I noticed about this yarn is that if you have to take it off of the hook, it can be a little bit difficult to put back on, especially if you didn't have like a big loop like that. Like if your hook fell off, because of all of the little tiny holes in the yarn itself, your hook can accidentally go through the holes that are in the yarn instead of through like the stitch that you're working with, like this. And that can make it a little bit more challenging when all of a sudden your hook slips off and you have to try and put it back on. But it's honestly, it's really not that bad. If you can see where the stitch is and you kind of know what you're doing, it's not the worst thing in the world. At this point, I am almost done making the head, and he's turning out kind of small, a little bit smaller than I was expecting, actually. So he might end up being Mr. Shredded Cheese's little brother. Have you ever seen a possum out in public and you were like, holy shit, I want that? You just gotta go to Niche Crochet and you'll find tons of possums to choose from. I even added a search feature to make finding what you're looking for a breeze. I add new possums, rats, and raccoons to the store every single month. So visit nichecrochet.com today. I've completed the head and body of this rat, and this is how it's turning out so far. I think the further I go on with this, the more easy it is to tell the rounds, at least. I don't think the stitch definition itself gets easier, but for me it's still relatively easy. Another thing I'm taking note of as I work with this is that it is very abrasive. Like, this yarn thinks it's scrubby yarn, but this is like a real, like, scrubber. I think I might go back to Michael's later today and buy more of this in different colors, because I think this would actually work, like, very well scrubbing your dishes. It's irritating my fingers, but overall, I don't know. I like how this is turning out so far. Here's a size comparison so far. Just a little bit smaller than Mr. Shredded Cheese. But now I've got to stuff the head. Having to move my fingers in here is scratching my fingertip. Alright, so now the head is stuffed, and now I have to make the rest of the body. I'm almost done with the body, and this is how it's turning out. I think this is looking pretty good. The more I work with this, the harder it feels on, like, the skin on my fingers, because it is very rough. It's very scrubby. It's making my fingers red, but we don't have that much left to do. Right now I'm going to start stuffing the body, and then I'm going to close it off, and then I think I want to start with the tail next. Alright, so stuffing doesn't feel good. Yeah, I love the stuffing process because it really brings out what the shape is intended to be, makes it rounder. Yeah, this is looking good, actually. I like this. Oh yeah, that's a solid shape right there. This is one of the best looking shapes. Time to close it up. Let's see how this cuts. Interesting. You can kind of start to pull the yarn apart when you cut it. Like that, see? I hope that that does not make sewing difficult. I hope that this yarn can keep itself together when I'm sewing on the different body parts, because that would be rough. Oh god. It's getting caught. It just got caught in the center here and started to pull itself apart. Oh no. I mean, maybe it's not so bad. Ooh, no, it's bad. Yeah, it's pulling itself apart crazy style. Trying to prevent it from pulling apart even more because I really can't afford to lose more length here. Look how much of it has pulled apart. All this squiggly stuff, it's pulled itself apart and it's kind of just curly now. This, on the other side of my needle, is all I have that hasn't been pulled apart. I'm losing it. No. Alright, I think I did it. Oof. I don't know what I'm going to do to prevent that in the future when I have to sew on all the body parts. I hope I can figure that out. Maybe this was just a fluke. Maybe that won't happen again. I don't know. But yeah, this is all, see how it is now? It's not like looped together anymore. It's just like a strand. That was unpleasant. But I was able to successfully get it shut. And now I'm going to start with the tail. And I'm excited to use the other color wherever I put it. And this is how much of the gray yarn I have left. So quite a bit of gray yarn. I think I could probably make 2 or 3 rats out of one of these skeins. Now it's time for this purple yarn. This purple yarn was called Lilac. It's kind of just like a muted plum, like a muted light plum color, I would say. But I think it'll be a really nice color for the feet and the tail. Now the tail can be difficult because when you chain 2, after you chain 2, you have to only start with 4 stitches in the first round, which can be really challenging. And with special yarn like this, it's even more challenging. So let's see how this goes. I'm almost impressed with how well this is going. Alright, so this is the tail so far. It's actually looking really good, and it's proving itself to be pretty easy to work with. Alrighty, just finished the tail. Now I have to be very careful not to mess this up so that I can sew it on easily. But yeah, this is how the tail turned out. It actually turned out great. I mean, the yarn is hard on my skin to work with, but it's coming out really nice. It kind of looks like the texture of this kind of looks like the inside of a geode. Can you tell what I mean? But it looks really nice. It feels so scratchy. This yarn feels soft compared to this. Like, this is very scratchy, scrubby yarn. So just a fair warning, if you guys decide that you want to buy one of these, it does not feel good to touch. Unless you really like rough textures, it is not a pleasant thing to touch. Now I can sew on the tail. It's looking good. First stitch down. Still looking good. I think I just made a mistake by demonstrating the first time around about how the yarn pulls apart easily. It's actually staying together pretty well now. The tail is on. Dude, this is looking so good. I'm so happy about this. Look at this. It's a little bit stiff, kind of like how the fishing line rat was, but it has more flex to it. Here's a size comparison again, just so you can see that it is quite a bit smaller. I think I'm going to go ahead and start making the feet and the legs. Alright, I just wanted to show you guys the process of what crocheting the feet looks like, because as a lot of you guys already know, I like to make things that have individual toes, and with yarns like this and materials that are hard to work with, making each individual toe can actually be a really difficult process. So let's just see how this goes. I'm making a front foot right now, which has the shorter toes, and I think it's going pretty well so far. I can tell what's going on here. Alright, second toe down. Alright, so that marks round one of the foot complete. And you can see all the toes. This looks really good. And this is relatively easy to work with. I've now made every single body part that I have to crochet. So these are the front legs, and they turned out very good. So did the back leg. Oops. So did the back legs. They're also looking very nice. Very much still like the inside of a geode. And then these are the ears. They look normal. So now we just have to sew on the body parts and then embroider the face. And then this rat is done. Okay, so now the ears are on. I noticed that there's like giant holes in the middle of the ears, and usually those are obscured with regular yarn, but I guess with this yarn it just like it makes the holes more prominent. But now it's finally time to sew on the legs. One leg is on. Both of the front legs are on now, and this is how it's looking. It's looking so good. I'm so happy. All 4 legs are on, and this is how it looks. Now I just have to make the face. Here's the nose. Also, the sun is in my eyes. Oh my god. Yeah, every evening the sun comes in and blasts me through the window. This is the result. Sorry the lighting is so awkward. It's just an awkward time of day, I guess, but this yeah, this is how it turned out. Dude, he's adorable. He looks like a normal rat, but like crunchier. Dude, alright. You know the drill. Give me name suggestions in the comments below. What should I name, what's this called? Stitch Soak Scrub Rat? What should I name this one? And let's look at the size comparison. Yeah, just a little smaller. He's not super tiny. Honestly, I think I'm going to make more of these and possibly sell them. I'm thinking about going to Michael's like right after I'm done recording this video. So let me know if you would like one of these because I plan on making more. Now I have to continue the tradition of showing you guys every single rat that I have made for this channel. So first of all, we got Mr. Shredded Cheese made out of Red Heart Scrubby yarn. Then we've got strawberries when you leave them in the fridge for a week. This was pipe cleaners and it didn't work out. This one is made out of twine, and this one was also a pretty easy one. Twine is a pretty similar material to yarn. His name is Mark Twine. Then we have Tinsel Rat. This was probably one of the most difficult rats I've ever done. It's made out of Christmas tinsel that's all tied together, which is why it's so like this. I used to make Tinsel Rat replicas, and I used to sell those in my shop, so let me know if you guys would like me to bring those back, as well as Mr. Shredded Cheese back to the shop. And then I made Plastic Bag Rat, also known as Plat. He's made out of Kroger bags. And then I made Twizzler Rat, and he's, I don't know, he used to be something. And then I made Digital Rat in Crochet Simulator. And then I made a rat out of waxed dental floss, and this is the smallest rat I've made for this channel. For comparison, here's the rat I just made compared. Yeah, very tiny rat. And then I also made the fishing line rat, which I was referencing a lot earlier because the material is somewhat similar, but looking at it, the fishing line is a lot thicker than the little plastic strands that were used to make up this yarn. and so it was a lot stiffer and harder, which is why this turned out so much better, because this was thinner and was in like a chain of itself, so it was very stretchy and much more pliable than this stuff. But yeah, but overall they feel very similar in your hands, so whatever you were imagining when you watched this video, whatever you were imagining this feels like, this basically also feels like that. And then in my last video, I also made this fluffy rat out of a really fluffy and also really expensive yarn. And a lot of people, you know, I didn't consider this a real Willet rat in the video I made, but a lot of people have been saying, you should, this is a real Willet rat. So you know what, I'm gonna include him in the lineup. I'm going to make more of these guys in different colors. I'm going to use up the yarn that I bought, and then that'll be it for these. So if you would like one of these, there will be a limited time stock available. And then we have the rat that I just made. So yeah, let me know what you guys think I should name him in the comments, and if you think I should add him to the shop. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, and please watch more of my videos. This is a whole series that I do where I crochet rats made out of different materials that may or may not be yarn. If that sounds like something you're interested in watching more of, I have an entire series on my channel that you can watch. That's it for today's video. Thank you. Bye bye.